Hey, friends. Welcome to my, I'm going to say official live because I've done like two, but like one was at 1 o'clock in the morning so that I knew nobody would be on. And then another was kind of a little late. But, anyways, welcome. I'm so excited that you're here. And hello, Rewatch crew. Thank you for being here as well. You're just as important as the ones that are here during the live. So, I'm Heather, your host, and welcome to Facts, Opinions, and Real Talk. So, first, I want to apologize. Yesterday, this was scheduled for last night, and I have been sick. I actually have a couple of vestibular disorders. So, that has to do with your balance and dizziness. And so, like, anytime I have like sinus issues or the weather changes, then it's like sometimes I have the flu. I can't function. So that's why I had to cancel last night. And again, I am so sorry, but I took some Alka-Seltzer and I feel way much better today. So, I just want to let you know I'm not a flake, but I'll tell you what I can be. I can be kind and sarcastic and witty, or at least I think I can. So let's talk about just a few rules right quick. Be sweet, be able to have civil conversations in the chat and with me, be respectful to everyone, especially me. Other than that, we're good. Now, if you think these rules are ridiculous, well, then bye bye. You can go find you another show. But here we're going to be sweet and we're going to talk and chat and maybe we'll learn a thing or two. So I'm super excited about this case. And I know that's kind of weird to say about a murder trial, but this is a perfect example, in my opinion. And again, these are my opinions and my facts that I looked up. I'm not a professional anything. I am just a regular layperson who wanted to learn more about the justice system. And I'm 48 years old. I'm not going to lie about my age. I'm 48. And it's taken me to this age to really appreciate what's going on. And I don't know, analyze it, see what we can do to change it, make it better. Look and see what works good. I mean, we always pick out bad, but we never say, hey, they did a good job. Everybody always wants to complain, but they never want to give the good job there, buddy. So that's why I wanted to do this. And I think this trial is a perfect example layout for somebody to watch that is not familiar with the justice system and the court system. And so I wanted to start it, and it's just really good. I can't explain that. I'm just getting excited just talking about it. So, okay. And I have ADD, so y'all be. So let's talk about jury summons. So, like, if you haven't gotten a jury summons, it's a piece of paper you get in the mail, and they're telling you, hey, we need you to show up because you may be selected for a jury. And I've been summoned 3 times in my life since I was eligible, and I've not been able to serve yet. 2 reasons were because of a job, and the last reason was because of some health issues going on. So, anyways, I still wanted to learn because I got to that point and I still did not get to see how the court system worked. And in this case, we're going to be looking at a murder trial. So, and yes, I like to do some visual aids because, again, when it boils down to it, a lot of us are visual learners. So, looking at this, we're going to the justice system is 3 parts. That not really, but we're just talking to the top layer because we don't get bogged down. So 3 parts of the justice system. You've got the law enforcement. So that's where, they're going out, they're keeping us safe, they're trying to keep the peace, and people get arrested for not following directions, or they've done something that's against the law and they get arrested. So then the next part is the courts. So that's the part we're going to focus on in this series about Travis Rudolph, is the court system. And then the third part is corrections. So if somebody is found guilty, then they go to jail, prison, rehab, whatever the judge sees fit. So moving along. All right. Now, we're going to talk about the jury summons. And this is going to pertain to Florida, because this is where the case takes place. And I'm not telling you about that much about the case. If you've already seen it, that's great. Then you'll understand, or you should understand, how great a trial it was. If you haven't seen it, I want you just to kind of, when we go through the series, I want you to kind of see it without that much knowledge. And then I want to get your opinion about it. So, but the rules that I talk about are Florida, because this took place in Palm Beach County. So potential jurors are selected through the Florida Division of Highway Safety and Motor Vehicles. In other words, your driver's license. And so you must be 18 years of age, legal residents of Palm Beach County, and must possess a driver's license or a picture ID issued from that county. So then next, one word that you'll probably hear if you're not familiar with watching trials is voir dire. And that is the process in which, like, the judge and the lawyers select a jury from those that are eligible, and they question them to determine, how much knowledge they know about the case and the facts, and the ability to see if they have the ability to make a decision based on the evidence that's presented in court. So, in other words, you have to have an open mind. To do your job as a juror, you've got to just clean the slate. Whatever you know, you clean the slate. Because you can't go in with an idea it's not fair, and everybody deserves a fair trial. All right. So then, all right. So after you've been chosen as a juror, in this case, they get paid $15 a day. And then if the trial goes over 3 days, then starting that fourth day, the pay goes up to $30 a day. Now, juror pay is not the same as in anywhere. It's not like it's higher some other states and lower in some other states. It just depends. So if you ever want to know, what yours is, just Google it or call your local courthouse, and somebody can let you know how much it is, but it is not the same. So just be aware of that. Okay, so let's talk about the judge. All right, so the judge is extremely important. He has 5 main tasks during a trial. Now, is this all the parts and pieces of the judge's job? No, these are just 5 things that I want you to know that he is going to be doing during this trial, and that judges should do through all trials. And I'm sorry, I didn't stop this, so it went on further. Let me back this up. Bear with me. We're having some technical difficulties. Okay. Okay. So back to the judge. 5 main tasks during a trial. He's going to preside over the proceedings and see that order is maintained. And so, like, there used to be a joke, order in the court. And then people would say, well, I'll take a ham sandwich. No, 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 no. That's not, that is not what he's doing. He is there to make sure that people are acting right, not only the prosecution, the defense attorneys, the defendant, the jurors, and the people in the gallery. The people in the gallery are usually like family members, supporters of either the victims or the defendants. It's just the gallery's the people. So he is there to make sure that everybody behaves. All right. He is also there to determine whether the evidence that the defense and prosecution wants to use is not is ill. Well, to determine if it's illegal and improper. So, in other words, if it's not legal, it's not going in, and he will tell them, "Hey, it's not going in there," and he'll rattle off a rule as to why. Usually, when they have arguments or debates, they always back it up with a law, which I love because I'm the type of person like if I tell you something that's a fact, I will tell you where I got that fact from. So I really enjoyed that part of the watching trial coverage. So the judge also gives instructions to the jurors and about the law that's going to pertain to that case, and the standards that the jury must use to decide the case. And then he also, in bench trials, now a bench trial, we'll take a little sidebar, which means we'll go to the side. Okay, so a bench trial is where there's no jury and it's the judge that makes the decision. So that could be, that could go either way. So anyways, but in a bench trial, the judge must also determine the facts and decide the case. And the bench is right there where he's located. And you'll hear him say, "Your Honor, may I approach the bench?" And he'll say yes. And, so those are some examples. And then lastly, his job is to sentence convicted criminal defendants. So after the jury has made their decision, then he's the one that decides they can recommend the punishment, but he's the one that officially decides. All right, let's talk about the prosecution. Okay. In this case, this trial is the state of Florida versus Travis Rudolph. So the prosecutor is representing the state. And sadly, a person died due to this awful, I don't even know how to explain it. It was just an awful situation and someone died. And so since that person is not physically here, for the prosecution to represent, then prosecution represents the state. And so what their job is to become familiar with the case and the facts of the case. They are to talk to witnesses. They need to study the evidence. They need to, try to anticipate any kind of problems that might happen during the trial, which that's difficult to say, but, once I'm sure you get experience, it becomes maybe easier. I don't know. I would have to ask somebody, an attorney about that. So I guess it just depends on the case, but you've got to just kind of imagine what kind of pitfalls you may come across when, working on your case. And then lastly is to develop a trial strategy. And I love trial strategies. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. Okay. So then we're going to look at the defense side. Okay. So I know it's not showing much of the defense, but the defense has a large job. First of all those things I just rattled off about what the prosecution does? Okay, the defense has to do the same thing. They've got to go over the case, they've got to, you know, examine the facts, the evidence, uh, question witnesses, you know, all everything the prosecution does, the defense has to do. And then what makes it difficult for the defense attorneys is they're always portrayed as the bad guys. And they're not. They're not. I don't know why where that came from. I know it's been years and years because it's always been in movies I've seen. You know, I watched The Lincoln Lawyer. I reference that a lot because there's this one scene, and one lawyer is thinking about going, you know, and becoming a defense attorney. And the other one says, "Oh, so you're gonna go to the dark side." You know, things like that need to be cut out. We need to not look at attorneys in a negative way because they're doing their job. Whether it is a public defender or one that has their own practice, they're doing their job. And so they have to serve both as officers of the court and they have to advocate for their client. So they've got to kind of juggle, okay, I've got to get along somewhat with the prosecution. I can't piss off the judge because, you know, I'm over here fighting for my client's life. So, you know, that's a little, you know, slippery slope. You better be careful. But hey, this trial, it was amazing. And you'll see eventually when we get through. And then lastly, that I never realized this, and I wished I could remember who said something similar to this. It might have been Mark Shiner. I'm so sorry. I'm a little nervous, so I'm getting tongue tied. But Mark Shiner, he is one of the defense attorneys. It's either him or someone else, but their job is also to ensure the constitutional rights and other legal rights of their clients and make sure that those rights are protected. And as long as they're protected in one case, they should be protected in all cases, and therefore they are also fighting for our rights, even if we've not gone to trial, because there may be a day that something happens by accident, and what if you know, you're they're saying you did it, you know, and you're going on trial and you're fighting for your life and you're innocent, and if you don't have these rights there in place to make sure you're treated fairly, then you're screwed. So, I mean, they're also a very important part of the system and they're not the bad guys. So just try to keep that in mind when you are watching trials. I'm not saying all attorneys are great and wonderful, and I'm not saying all attorneys are terrible and horrible people. It's just like any other group of people. There's some that's just that, you know, one bad apple spoils the bunch kind of ideal. So, but anyways, I could rattle about that forever. So let's move on. Da, 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 da. I don't have any elevator music until this next slide. Okay, that's all on that one. So let's talk about something fun. Let's talk about football. Woohoo! All right, I know some of you don't like football, but here in Alabama, we are all about some college football. So, one thing is Travis Rudolph is a former NFL player, and he actually started off at Florida State because he passed up Alabama and Auburn. Shame on you, Travis. I'm watching you. But anyways, just kidding. So, but anyways, um, so what I love about watching a good trial is that it's like watching a football game. And so I made this little graphic to kind of give you an idea about what's going on to make it a little easier and remind you what's going on. So, remember we talked about the judge. Okay, the judge is the referee. He is there to make sure that the rules are followed and that everybody is supposed to be doing what they're supposed to. Okay. Then you got your jury. Okay. That's the fans. Okay. The fans. Hey, a jury is made up of 12 people that they may like you, they may not. So that's about like how fans are. So, and then you got your prosecution. They are going to do everything they can to beat the defense and get that football to the goal line. That is their job. And the goal line meaning convincing the jury without a shadow of a doubt that the defendant is guilty. Okay? And the defense, it's pretty much like defense on football. So they are going to work their hardest and do anything they can to stop the prosecution. Just like football, offense is going to stop the defense is going to stop the offense from coming through. Same thing. Defense is going to do everything they can to stop the prosecution, to make the jury question, are they really making sense with what they're trying to explain to me? So that's what I love about trials. It's like a combination of football games and chess. Chess is the other one because like I was talking about earlier, when they prepare, they have to have their strategies. And with strategies, it's like chess. You've got to be like 2 or 3 steps ahead of your opponent. And you've got to think, okay, what are they going to do? How can I be ahead of them? And it's just this mind battle that I don't know. I just love it because I love strategy games and just watching it. It just amazed. And I'll point out some of the strategies during the opening statements that I like and that are okay to me. I'm trying to be nice. Okay, so we're going to talk about opening statements here, and I'll go ahead and let this little football thing finish. But anyways, opening statements is going to kind of be like first quarter in a football game. Okay. For me, when I watch first quarter of an Alabama game, Roll Tide, or a Jacksonville State game, Go Gamecocks. Okay. Sorry, had to throw that in there. But when so opening statements, like I said, is like the first quarter. That when I'm watching a team play and I watch them play in that first quarter, that gives me some kind of idea of how they're going to play. And if they're lacking in one part or the other, then what are they going to do to try to fix it, to make it better, to show the fans that they can get their job done? So that's why I feel like the opening statements are so important. And I've heard a lot of lawyers say they'll throw out a percentage that a lot of jurors will already kind of somewhat have their mind made, which they should not, because the evidence has not even been presented, but that they'll even have their minds kind of made up based off opening statements. So if you're an attorney or student, this is just a lay person who observes, and I just want to give you my opinion. And maybe it can help you, maybe not. Maybe you think I'm an idiot. I don't care. I have opinions and I want to share them. So let's get back to opening statements. In opening statements, both attorneys should be telling a story. And every story has a beginning, a middle, and an end. Now, if you are telling a story and you start going all over the place and you're not doing in some kind of order, you are going to lose your audience, which in this case is the jury. They are going to be like, what are they talking about? I can't follow them. You have to do it in a way that you're almost telling a story to children, but it's adults, so don't make them feel dumb, but, kind of make it simple enough that they can grasp. Um, and you also need to be engaged. Eye contact is so important. Even just your cadence of how you speak, your inflection, all that is so important because you got to remember this is like sometimes 9 o'clock in the morning, 10 o'clock in the morning, they're sitting there in a courtroom. And so you've got to tell them this story and keep them engaged because these opening statements aren't like 10 minutes long. We're talking they could range anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour and 30 minutes, maybe 2 hours. I don't know. It depends on how they schedule it. But I believe in this one, the prosecution will be doing 30 minutes and the defense attorney will be doing an hour. But what I'll do is, as we're watching, I will probably pause and give you some ideas about what I think, what I like, and what maybe you can expect if you're ever a juror. So, all right. And also, before we get started, and I want to give you a heads up, there will be cuss words throughout this trial and inappropriate language. In fact, I may even cuss because I remember when I watched this the first time, there were times that I cussed, but it won't be too bad. But anyways, if that is going to be offensive to you, you may want to leave now. And if you do, that's fine. I completely understand. So let's go ahead and get started with the opening statements. And some of the volume might be a little low. Sometimes the microphones in the trials are not either loud enough or the attorneys might not be close. But right now, what the judge is doing is, something I know I forgot. And I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to stop because I'm not really I'm a perfectionist, let's be real.
Right. Welcome back, folks. Everyone take your seats.
All right,
please.
Judge, hang on just a second. Okay. Something that I can't believe I forgot. Okay. I've got to introduce you to the players of the opening statements. Okay. So, not on me. This is fun. Yay, there it is. Okay. All right. So, like I said, Florida versus Travis Rudolph. Travis Rudolph over in the right corner. Well, it would probably be your left corner. Whatever. Anyways, he is the defendant. His charges that the prosecution side, he's being charged with first-degree murder and 3 counts of attempted murder. And both of those are with firearms. All right. In the middle, you have the judge, the referee, and you have your jury. And in this case, there are 12 jurors and 2 alternates. And so what they do is they have the alternates. If you don't know, alternates are like if one of the jurors like gets sick or can't, their job won't let them be out that long, some emergency could happen and that juror cannot finish doing their job, they will have the alternate fill in. So like I said, this case, we do have our 12 members of the jury, and then we have 2 alternates. So on the prosecution side, starting out in opening statements, we have Richard Closey, and he is a state prosecutor. And then on the other side, we have the defense attorney, and this is Heidi Perlette. And so now we are ready to get started with the judge. What he was doing was waiting for, he was standing.
Everyone signed in down the jury office, right? Excellent.
He was
Wonderful.
waiting for the jury to come in.
Okay,
And when
thank
they
you once
come
again for
in,
coming early enough to get going so we can catch
you
up,
stand
although
up.
We're a little behind schedule, and I appreciate it.
And that's the one thing I like about a trial too is, hey, they have manners. I am huge about manners. You'll hear them ask permission for the honor, standing up for the jury, standing up for the judge. May I approach a witness? It's just plain, to me, Southern manners. But anyways, all right, so let's get started. The judge is about to give instructions to the jury.
Very much. So, as I said last night, we're going to start off today with my reading to you some additional instructions. You will find, frankly, that some of them are a little redundant. As I mentioned yesterday, that's because they are so very, very important. All right, ladies and gentlemen, you have been sworn in as the jury in this case, the case of the state of Florida versus Travis Rudolph. This is, as you know, a criminal case. Mr. Rudolph is charged with 1 count of first-degree murder with a firearm and 3 counts of attempted first-degree murder with a firearm. I will later explain the definitions of those charges, those counts, to you at an appropriate point. The state's charging document is called an indictment. It is not evidence, and it is not to be considered by you as evidence of any guilt whatsoever. It is merely a charging document. It is my responsibility to explain the law to you. It is your solemn responsibility to determine whether the state has proved its accusations beyond a reasonable doubt against Mr. Rudolph, in accordance with the law that I provide to you. Thus, the province of the jury and the province of the judge are well defined, and they do not in any way, shape, or form overlap. This is one of the fundamental principles of our system of justice. Before proceeding further, it will be helpful if you understand how a trial is conducted. At the beginning of the trial, the lawyers for each side will have an opportunity, if they wish, to make an opening statement. In this case, both sides will be making opening statements. The opening statement gives the lawyers a chance to tell you what evidence they believe will be presented during the trial. What the lawyers say is not evidence, and you are not to consider it as such. Following the opening statements, witnesses will be called to testify under oath. They will be examined and cross-examined by the lawyers. Documents and other exhibits will also be produced as evidence. After the evidence has been presented, the court will give you instructions on the law. Thereafter, the attorneys will have the opportunity to make their closing arguments. Following the closing arguments by the lawyers, the court will conclude with final instructions. After I give you the final instructions, you will then retire to begin your deliberations in order to consider your verdict. You should not form any definite or fixed opinion on the merits of the case until you have heard all the evidence, the argument of the lawyers, and the instruction on the law by me. Until that time, you should not discuss the case with anyone, even amongst yourselves. Your verdict must be based solely on the evidence or lack of evidence and the law. I now instruct you again not to communicate with anyone, including your fellow jurors, about this case. No communication includes no emailing, text messaging, tweeting, blogging, or any other form of communication. You cannot do any research about this case or look up any information about the case at all. If you become aware of any violation of these rules or any of the other rules that I give you, you must let me know by giving one of the deputies a note. They will give it to me, and I will take swift, appropriate action. During the course of the trial, we will take recesses, and during those, you will be permitted to separate and go on about your personal affairs. During those recesses, you must not discuss the case with anyone, nor permit anyone to say anything to you or in your presence about the case. If anyone attempts to say anything to you about this case or in your presence, Tell them you are on the jury trying the case and ask that person to stop. If they persist, leave them at once and immediately report the matter to Deputy Lubinsky or one of the other deputies, and they will inform me, and I will take swift, appropriate action. You cannot have any cell phones, tablets, laptops, or other electronic devices in the courtroom. You may use those devices during recesses, but even then, you may not use your cell phone or electronic device to find out any information or to communicate with anyone about this case or the people or places involved in the case. Do not take photographs, video recordings, or audio recordings of the proceedings or your fellow jurors. At the end of the case, while you are deliberating, you are not to communicate with anyone outside of the jury room. If someone needs to contact you in an emergency, the court can receive messages and deliver them to you without delay. A contact phone number will be provided to you if you request it. The case must be tried by you only on the evidence presented during the trial in your presence and in the presence of Mr. Rudolph, the lawyers, and me. Jurors must not conduct any investigation of their own. This includes reading newspapers, watching television, or using a computer, cell phone, the internet, any electronic device, or any other means at all to get information related to this case or the people and places involved in this case. This applies whether you were in the courtroom, at home, or anywhere else. You must not visit places mentioned in the trial or use the internet to look at maps or pictures or to see anything or any other place discussed during the trial. Jurors must not have discussions of any sort with friends or family members about the case or the people and places involved. So do not let even the closest family members make comments to you or ask questions about the trial. In this age of electronic communication, I want to stress again that just as you must not talk about the case face-to-face, you must also not talk about this case by using any electronic device. You must not use phones, computers, or other electronic devices to communicate. Do not send or accept any messages related to this case or your jury service. Do not discuss this case or ask for any advice by any means at all, including posting information on an internet website, chat room, or blog. What are the reasons for these rules? These rules are imposed because jurors must decide the case without distraction and only on the evidence and argument presented in the courtroom. If you investigate, research, or make inquiries on your own, I, the trial judge, have no way to make sure that the information you obtain is proper for the case. The parties likewise have no opportunity to dispute or challenge the accuracy of what you find. That is contrary to our judicial system, which assures every party the right to ask questions about and challenge the evidence being considered against them or it, and to present argument with respect to that evidence. Any independent investigation by a juror unfairly and improperly prevents the parties from having that opportunity our judicial system promises. Any juror who violates these rules jeopardizes the fairness of these proceedings, and a mistrial could result, requiring that the entire trial process be started over. A mistrial is a tremendous expense and inconvenience to the parties, the court, and the taxpayers. If you violate these rules, you may be held in contempt of court and face sanctions such as serving time in jail, paying a fine, or both. In every criminal proceeding, a defendant has the absolute right to remain silent. At no time is it the duty of a defendant to prove their innocence. From the exercise of a defendant's right to remain silent, a jury is not permitted to draw any inference of guilt, and the fact that a defendant did not take the witness stand must not influence your verdict in any manner whatsoever. The attorneys are educated and experienced concerning the rules of evidence and trial procedure, and it is their duty to make all objections they feel are proper. When an objection is made, you should not speculate on the reason why it is made. Likewise, when an objection is sustained or upheld by me, you must not speculate on what might have occurred had the objection been overruled, nor what a witness might have said had they been permitted to answer. During the trial, It may be necessary for me to confer with the lawyers out of your hearing to discuss matters that require consideration by me alone. It is not always possible to predict when such a conference may be required or how long it will last. When such conferences occur, I will conduct them so as to consume as little of your valuable time as is necessary for a fair and orderly trial of this case. Now, yesterday, each of you was provided a pad and a pen. They should be back there now and probably in your laps. I want to discuss note-taking for just a moment. Those pads are really provided to you for two reasons. One, for note-taking. The other is for making a note that you want to pass up to me for any question that you may have when you get back into the jury room for deliberations. So let's talk about your note-taking during the proceedings. As you might expect, I have been in positions, classes, let's say, for over the years, many times, as have some of you. I have experienced, and some of you have too, that it is very easy to get so caught up in your note-taking that you lose track of what's going on around you. Don't let that happen. Ultimately, what is most important is your recollection about what you've heard the witnesses say and what you heard the arguments of the lawyers to be. That's what's ultimately important. Your notes should be considered by you as aids to your memories, if you will, either individually or collectively. But when you get back there and use your notes during your deliberations, and that's the only time you're going to be using those notes, when you get back there for deliberations, remember this: neither your notes nor the notes of any other juror are binding on the group, all right? They're not binding on you even. They are simply aids to your recollection about what occurred, what you watched occur, and you heard occur during the course of this trial. All right. Once again, the openings of the lawyers are what they say is not to be considered evidence, nor your instruction on the law. However, that is not to say that they are not important. They are. The opening statements will provide you roadmaps, if you will, as to what the lawyers in good faith believe the evidence will show during the course of the trial. So you should be be paying very close attention to them, and to the extent that you want to, take notes during that as well.
Okay, so just like right there, he said the attorneys are going to be, following a roadmap. Okay, that's what I'm talking about when telling a story from beginning, middle to end. And so I like how he explains that to them. He clearly states the rules. Some of the judges that I've listened to, I would zone out. That's terrible to say, but I would zone out because I'd be like, what is all this verbiage they're saying? But he is just to the point, and he's clear and concise, and I really enjoy it. And that's why I know this is probably boring to some of you, but it's important. And I like the way he covers it.
Well, but just remember, what they say is neither evidence nor instruction on the law. All right. Refresh my recollection. Will there be any testimony provided via video? No. Okay. And not to the defense.
Okay. So he's asking, like he just said, if there's going to be testimony by video, especially since, well, I know since COVID, they've done more video and Zoom for testimonies. I believe even before that, like maybe minors have testified through videos just to the judge. So in other words, that's a different, it's testimony, but it's done in a different way. So therefore, if they were having video testimonies, then the judge would have to give the jury instructions on that portion. So that's what he's clarifying with the both sides of the attorneys to make sure, so he doesn't have to explain anything about that kind of testimony to the jurors.
knowledge either. Fine. Okay, so all then the testimony will be provided live in person, so to speak, by folks sitting up there in the witness stand. They will be sworn in before you. By before you, I mean in front of you. You will hear them sworn in, and then they will give their testimony on direct and cross and perhaps redirect examination. There will be other types of evidence presented during the course of this trial. The other types of evidence, depending on what they are, will be able to go back with you to the jury room when you begin your deliberations, not before. There will be certain exceptions to that rule. Nevertheless, you'll be able to see any exhibit as often as you like, and if you have to come back out after your deliberations begin to view those types of exhibits here in the courtroom in front of everyone, that'll be fine. We'll make arrangements for that. It's not a problem. Hours and breaks. As I said yesterday, we will, of course, have breaks during the course of the day. Some of those breaks will simply be stand-up and stretch breaks when I'll turn on the obnoxious white noise, the hissing noise that you've heard before. During those breaks, of course, you'll remember and obey the 4 cardinal rules. We may take longer breaks, 15-minute breaks or restroom breaks. We will, of course, take meal breaks as well. And as I said yesterday, for the most part, the duration or the length of time for those meal breaks will be determined by you by vote, by raising your hand type vote. Finally, I will make every effort that I can to get you out of here by 5 o'clock every night. I will commit to you that I will not keep you past 6 o'clock on any given night, with the exception that I mentioned yesterday. During the course of your deliberations, if it appears to you all that you are close to reaching a verdict, then it is possible I'll keep you past 6 o'clock, only if it looks like you're close. Otherwise, we come back on the next business day for you to engage in your continue engaging in your deliberations, regardless of what I'm doing here in the courtroom. Okay, I've given them to you multiple times. I'm going to give them to you one more time. The 4 cardinal rules. Thou shalt not engage in any discussion, even amongst yourselves, about this case until you get back there in the jury room to begin your deliberations after the end of the trial. 2, thou shalt not do any research of any kind, electronic, in a book, talking to anybody else about this case or what others believe the law to be. None of that whatsoever. No research whatsoever.
And I'm so glad that he is really, pounding in on this. No research, no research. Some people will be like, if it's a case where like they may think, oh, I can go home and try to recreate that crime scene or try to see if whatever they're saying is plausible. No, you cannot do that. You go home and you don't recreate, you don't research. You have to go by what is presented to you by the attorneys in the courtroom.
Of any kind, at any time, even after your deliberations begin. 3, keep an open mind. You still have not heard one teeny, itsy bitsy little bit of evidence yet. You haven't heard any yet. I'll let you know when you're going to hear the first bit of evidence. And 4, in the event during a break, you'll be stepping out of the courtroom and somewhere outside of the jury room. It is conceivable that you'll run into one of us. You'll see one of us out. And by us, I mean myself. I mean the lawyers. I mean Mr. Rudolph. I mean our clerk. I mean anybody. We will not talk to you. We will duck you. We are not intending to be rude, as I've said before. We are simply trying to make sure that there does not even begin to be the appearance of an inappropriate communication between any of us and you.
And what he's saying, it's kind of like when you are in school, or if you're still in school, and I don't know, say like you're taking a test and you drop a pencil and you lean over and you can't reach it, but the student next to you could reach it. So you're going, hey, you, hand me that pencil. Does the teacher know what you're doing? No, they probably think you're cheating. So that's kind of the same situation here. So you don't need to be talking to anybody because it could look like you're having a conversation about the trial, which jurors are not allowed to do. So,
Please, you duck us, we'll duck you, and everything will be hunky-dory. All right. We are now, any questions about anything I've said? Excellent. All right, we're ready to begin opening statements. Who's going to give the opening statement? All right. Mr. Klaus, go ahead. Thank you very much. Thank you.
all right, now we're getting ready for first quarter. Super excited.
Yes, please do.
Remember,
And
this is going to
excuse
be,
me, to stay near a microphone. If you need a handheld, that's fine too. Okay?
sorry, super important
We do.
part.
Deputy Lubinsky, will you provide Mr. Klaus with a handheld microphone, please?
The microphone situation is also important because not just, well, it's not really just for us that are watching it on TV or live stream. It's for the court reporter who is, typing up the transcripts for the whole court, for the whole trial, excuse me. And so if they can't understand, they're missing out and they have to have those transcripts. So that's why it's so important for the attorneys to use the microphones, for witnesses to speak into the microphones, and of course the judge, so that the court reporter can get the correct words to type in for the transcripts. Oh, and if you have snacks, go for it because I'm over here with cheese sticks. No shame in snacks.
You may begin. Yes, sir.
Opposing counsel, Your Honor, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, good morning. A German poet back during the French Revolution once said that murder begins when
Overruled.
Start again. A German poet back in the French Revolution once said that murder begins when self-defense ends.
Okay, just one moment. He starts off with a quote. I love quotes. Quotes are just as awesome to explain things as songs. But using a quote that's that old to reach an audience in this day and age is kind of, I don't know, a little bit of a snooze fest, or like, oh gosh, we're in history class. This is so boring. So you want to get something that's going to grab the jury's attention. And again, I appreciate the quote in the beginning, but maybe a different quote that's more the jury could find relatable, I guess you could say. And it needs to be one that's relatable for all ages, not just a certain age. And they know the jurors beforehand because remember, I told you during voir dire, they are asking them questions and they're finding out about these people. So they should tailor these opening statements just a tad to what kind of jurors they picked.
Murder begins when self-defense ends. Now, that was a simple sentence said many, many years ago, but that simple sentence perfectly encapsulates why this defendant right there, Travis Rudolph, is sitting in the chair that he's sitting in. The reason he's sitting in that chair is because just after midnight on April 7th, 2021, he took it upon himself to take out a semi-automatic rifle-like weapon, pursue 4 boys that were leaving the area of his home, and as those boys were trying to leave the situation that had occurred minutes before, this defendant used that weapon and fired 39 times. 39 times into the car that they were in that was trying to leave. Ladies and gentlemen, the facts and the evidence are going to be clear by the time you get back into that room that he was not on defense. He was on offense. He was not under attack. He was on the attack, and that's exactly why he's in that chair. Now, as you already know, we've talked about it a lot. My name is Richard Clossy, and along with my co-counsel, Ms. Adrienne Ellis and Ms. Francine Edwards, we represent the state of Florida. And as has been discussed at length, and you all know already because we had many questions about it, we have the burden of proof. We have the burden of proof, this table right here. We have to prove to you beyond every reasonable doubt. We're going to keep bringing that up. Every reasonable doubt. Not possible doubts. Not speculative doubts. Not possible doubts. Not imaginary doubts. Not forced doubts. Reasonable doubts about what happened that night.
Okay, I want to stop right there for just a moment. Okay, number one, he is already, to me, gotten off the track. I'm starting, I feel like I was following him, and then we just kind of started going all over the place. Again, I like how he started with the quotes. I wish he had done the introductions in the beginning. You know, get that out of the way. Like when you meet somebody, you want to, you know, hey, my name's so and so. How are you? So you want to kind of still have that kind of, even though he's a professional, you know, you still want to have that relatability to your jurors. So I would have already gotten that out first. And now I feel like I'm kind of lost. And oh, and just to let you know, now I will tell you this, he mentioned 4 boys. Okay, when I think of boys, I'm thinking, oh, elementary school age kids. Okay, no, we're not talking, no, these are young adults. So I just wanted to clarify that because that's a little bit misleading if you do not know anything about this case. So no, he was not chasing 4 kids. It was young men. I don't know, maybe 19 to 20 something. I'm not sure, but you'll hear later on.
And we embrace that burden. We embrace it. And we intend on meeting that burden for all 4 charges that this defendant is presented with here today. You all know what those 4 charges are. First-degree murder with a firearm for an individual by the name of Sebastian. And 3 counts of attempted murder. 3 counts of attempted murder for Tyler Robinson, Christopher Lowe, Tyler Robinson, Christopher Lowe, and Keyshawn Jones. Okay?
Okay.
Now, what do we have to...
I'm going to pause it right there for just a second. If you start seeing his hand shaking, now I don't know, I didn't look this up, but it looks like familial or essential tremors. And that is something that I have and my mom has. It's a nervous system kind of disorder. There's it can be brought on by caffeine, stress, I don't know. Again, I'm not a doctor and I'm not diagnosing him, but what I'm letting you know is I have this and it affects me in my hand and also my leg. And the only thing to do is rest. Like sometimes I'll eat and it may do that, what his hand was doing. So I have to lay my hand down. And what you'll see is he puts it down and he smoothly transitions to the other microphone because he's one that likes to walk around in front of the jury. So I have to give him props for that. I mean, yeah, it was a little distracting, but he can't help it. But again, it was a nice, smooth transition. And he did not, give an explanation. He just kept on talking about what he needed to talk about during the opening statement.
Well, you're going to get jury instructions. Ms. Edwards has already talked about those jury instructions. I'm going to talk briefly about them again, but don't worry. You're going to get a packet like this, and you go back into the jury. Okay? First-degree murder, what do we have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt? Well, number 1, We have to prove that Sebastian Jean-Jacques is dead.
Approach, please. Ladies and gentlemen, feel free to stand up and stretch, and you remember to obey the 4 cardinal rules while you're doing that.
Okay, so this is the first sidebar. And of course, we're not privy to the information they're talking about. But one thing, and I'll probably fast forward the rest of them, but one thing I want you to notice. All right, so you've got the judge here. He's leaning over to see what the objection was about. And so here are your 2 defense attorneys. Here are 2 prosecution attorneys. And something that I haven't seen, but again, I'm not like a professional or seeing a ton of trials, but I'm highly impressed that Travis is up there, the defendant. I mean, he should know what's going on. This is his life. I mean, he's paid for these attorneys, so he should know just like they know. And so I don't know if that was recommended by his attorneys or if that was something he asked if he could do. But whatever the case, it was impressive because it showed me he is truly interested in knowing what's going on because it's a fight for his life. And we'll go ahead and fast forward because like I said, I just wanted you to see that little part. So it looks like
Number 2,
now we're going back.
we have to prove that the reason he's dead is him right there. The unlawful act, the criminal act of this defendant. And the third thing we have to prove is their premeditated killing of Sebastian. Meaning, he thought about it before he did it. He thought about it before he did it. It wasn't involuntary. It wasn't an accident. It was purposeful because he meant to do it. Now, what you'll also see in the jury instructions is that we also have to prove what type of weapon he used. And in this case, it's a firearm. You're going to learn all about that firearm during the course of this trial. Now, when it comes to the 3 attempted first-degree murder counts, it's basically the same thing. We have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that he tried to kill Tyler, Chris, and Keyshawn. And that the only reason they're not dead is because he failed or someone else intervened. And then again, with that count, he meant to try to kill those 3 boys. And we're confident we're going to be able to do that, ladies and gentlemen. Now, as the judge just mentioned, how are we going to do it? Well, we're going to bring in witnesses. We're going to bring in witnesses that know about what led up to this event and witnesses that came afterwards. Law enforcement, crime scene investigators, medical examiners, detectives, all that got involved after this defendant decided to take someone's life and almost take $3. So, we can't perfectly plan everything that happens in a trial. But what we can anticipate are the witnesses that are first going to testify and who comes afterwards. The first types of witnesses that you're going to hear from are people that know about why this occurred, how it occurred, what led up to it, and what happened that night outside of this defendant's home, where he lived with his mother and his older brother, at 550 Teak Drive. For example, one of the first witnesses you're going to hear from is Keyshawn Jones, one of the victims in this case. He's going to give you the backstory. Now's not the time for me to give you the whole backstory. We're going to have plenty of days for you to listen to the actual people that can give you the backstory. But as a sum, in essence, what we're going to learn is that on April 6th, in the PM hours of that day, Keyshawn Jones learns from his sister.
Microphone.
Oh, my apologies.
Sorry. That works? Yeah, if you want to do that.
Sounds good. That's all right. We're going to learn that she talks to Keyshawn, who's her brother, and she informs him of a domestic dispute that had just occurred between this defendant and her. We're going to learn that Dominique, his sister, had been in a relationship with this defendant for about close to a year. Now, you're going to learn the details of that domestic dispute. But needless to say, once Keyshawn, her brother, finds out about what happened between her and Travis Rudolph earlier in the day, he's upset. His sister's upset. And once he tells his friends what had occurred earlier in that day, they get upset. We're not going to hide it, ladies and gentlemen. You're going to be able to see text messages and phone call logs and things like that. Dominique was upset with this defendant over what he did. Make no ifs, ands, or buts
Y'all
about
bear
it.
with me. My
Keyshawn was upset about what happened.
AirPods have
Make
gone
no
out,
ifs,
and I'm
ands, or
trying to
buts
hook
about
up
it.
another pair, and it won't let me
And when
listen
they were
to
upset,
the video. So
in a way,
bear with me.
that was threatening. You're going to see text messages where Dominique says, go shoot his shit up. You're going to see a text message from Deshaun where he's like, Travis is a dead man, walking. But this is all before they actually get to Travis's house. And ladies and gentlemen, actions speak louder than words. They truly do. We talked about it during jury selection. Sometimes people say things they don't mean. And what's important in this case is not what was said and done before, right around midnight. It's what did happen right around midnight when Keyshawn, Tyler, Chris, and Sebastian decide to go to the defendant's house to confront him. What has taken place earlier in the day? Now, you're not going to just have to rely on people getting up and testifying to that fact. Because what we're going to learn through the law enforcement officers that got involved after the shooting took place is they started getting as many surveillance videos as they could from around the neighborhood, from anywhere that might be able to pick up information about why this all took place. And what we're going to be able to see, ladies and gentlemen, is just after midnight on April 7th, 2021. Here is 5:50.
So one thing, he's showing them, I believe,
Of the
a
defendant who lived with
map,
his mom and his older brother,
and
his mother's house.
that's old school stuff.
That
And
black Cadillac,
some people might
those
not be
four
able to see
boys
it. It's
get
pretty
into the
far from the
neighborhood,
jury.
They parked the car
Um,
approximately down here. They parked
So,
it
and
away from the home
I
and
say
front
that
door
because there's
of this
something the
defendant.
defense will use
You're going to be able to see surveillance
that
video.
I
This
really,
right
really
there
like.
had multiple cameras, and you're going to literally be able to see the car park here. All of them get out of the car. All of them put stuff in their trunk, and all of them start walking in the direction of this house. From where they parked is approximately 300 feet away, 100 yards away. Now, you're also, through the benefit of a Ring doorbell camera that was installed on 550 T Drive, you're going to be able to see video of those four boys coming up to the door knocking and saying, hey, we got to talk to Travis out here about what happened. You're going to be able to see that. What you're not going to see, what you are not going to see, is a gun in any of their hands. You're not going to see that on that videotape, ladies and gentlemen. Now, we are going to be up front. There was one person out of four that brought a handgun with him. That was Tyler Robbins. But the facts and the evidence by the conclusion of this trial, ladies and gentlemen, are going to show beyond a reasonable doubt he never pulled it out. He never pulled it out. You're going to be able to see it on that Ring doorbell video when they first come. Now, what else are we going to learn when they decide to go and have a conversation about what took place with their sister and their friend earlier in the day? They asked for Travis to come out, and what we're going to learn is he didn't stay inside his house. He didn't call cops, didn't say get lost. He decided to come out and have that conversation with those four boys outside. He decided that. Now, unfortunately, the way these Ring cameras work, we're not going to be able to see the fist fight that takes place out in the lawn. But what the witnesses are going to be able to tell you is, it started as a verbal altercation, and he started the physical fight outside. He did. He started it. You're going to hear that a fist fight takes place outside. You got some people punching over here, some people punching over here for maybe 30 seconds to a minute. Then it dies down, but everybody's still angry. Then a fist fight starts again. But ultimately, the proverbial bell rings. And you then will be able to see, when the Ring camera video starts back up, what happens. You're going to see that that bell rang, that the fight was over, that any imminent threat, remember that word, ladies and gentlemen, imminent of either death or great bodily harm, that time was over. The fight was over. You're going to see on the video, those four boys are leaving. They are leaving. They are walking back to the car they parked 300 feet away from his house. Walking this way, all the way down. Are we going to learn that the defendant stayed in his yard? Are we going to learn that the defendant went back into his house? Are we going to learn the defendant grabbed his mother and brought her in the house? No. What we're going to learn is this defendant pursues them that entire 300 feet all the way down to their car. All the way. What we're also going to learn is during that fist fight, nary a shot fired. No shots were fired during that fist fight. No shots were fired as the defendant is following them with a semi-automatic rifle-like gun as they're trying to get back to their car. And what you're going to see, ladies and gentlemen, thanks to the surveillance cameras down at this house, is what happens when they get to the car. You are going to be able to see that they all get in the car starts to back up and head out of the neighborhood this way. The reason for that is, and you're going to be able to see, the defendant is on this side of the road. They are backing up to leave and escape the man that's carrying the semi-automatic rifle-like weapon. Then what you're going to see are muzzle shots, muzzle flashes from this defendant's gun as he shoots 39 times into the passenger side of that car when they're inside. 39 times. What you're not going to see on that video is a single muzzle flash from anyone else. From anyone else. The only person that shot a weapon that day at anybody was him, and when he did it, he had no legal justification to do so. And that's going to be proven beyond a reasonable doubt, ladies and gentlemen. Once you've had a chance to watch all of those videotapes, listen to the testimony, see the reactions of people like his mother and his brother. While all of this is going on, it's going to be clear that those 4 boys did not threaten with a gun. He threatened with a gun and ultimately fired it, killing Sebastian and almost killing 3 other people.
Okay, I'm going to pause this just a second. I'm still having where I can't hear the video. So bear with me just a minute. I'm going to pause this and see if I can fix this right quick. Okay, I'm back, and I think I can hear it now without.
911 call made by Keyshawn.
I don't
We're going
know.
to see where they responded to. There are going to be some officers,
Barely
obviously,
hear it.
that respond right to this area. Crime scene investigators. That their responsibility lock down the crime scene, look for evidence, gather evidence, and have it here for us today, or throughout the course of the trial. You're going to be able to see all of that. You're going to be able to hear from the crime scene investigators every single casing they collected, bullet casing, from this area right here. All 39 casings belong to his gun. Not one casing belonged to a different gun. Not one. Not one. You're going to be able to hear from the law enforcement officers that eventually catch up or find the black Cadillac. That at the time when they find it, the car made its way down to about 40th and Broadway until it gave out. One of those bullets shot the oil canister in the car and made it as it could go, died out. You're going to be able to see the body-worn camera of when that first officer finds Keyshawn and Chris standing outside that car. You're going to be able to see body-worn camera of Sebastian. That by the time, even after the short period of 10 to 15 minutes, you'll hear from medics as well. Sebastian's gone. Shot multiple times. And you're going to be able to hear from the medical examiner that'll tell you every single injury that he sustained at the hands of that man and his gun. You're going to be able to see the detectives that went around, got the Ring doorbell camera, got the surveillance camera, got surveillance camera from just on the local roads to pick up where the car stopped and where it finished. You're going to see all the hard work that these detectives did to try to figure out what happened on April 7, 2021. And what happened on April 7, 2021 is that this defendant, not out of self-defense, not out of defense of others, but out of anger and feeling disrespected, decided to take it out on 4 people. Almost killing 3 people and killing 1. And ladies and gentlemen, when you decide to do that out of anger and disrespect, the facts, the evidence, and the law say that isn't a reason to kill somebody or try to kill them. It is misconduct. So, by the conclusion of this trial, ladies and gentlemen, what we're asking for you to do now, open mind, like we talked about. Keep us to our burden and just don't make any conclusions until you've had a chance to.
I'm sorry, I still cannot hear this video.
Because we're confident when you do that, when you've had a chance to factor in everything. The videos, the photographs, the testimony, the evidence that comes in and your own common sense. You will come to the reasonable conclusion that on April 7th, 2021, this man had no legal justification to do what he did. He did it out of anger. And when you kill someone out of anger, it's not that you're not guilty, you are guilty of these crimes. And that's what we're going to be asking you to do. When you go back in that jury room, you're going to get a verdict with 4 counts on it. First-degree murder, and 3 counts of attempted first-degree murder. We're going to be asking you to check the boxes that say guilty as charged, because that's exactly what he is. Murder begins when self-defense ends. That's why he's guilty of these crimes, and that's why we're asking you to find him as such, and we're confident and do so.
Okay, good. It's playing on your
All
end.
right, thank you, Mr. Clausen.
So
Ms.
I guess I'll
Perlette.
have to listen through my phone.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, good. It's playing on your end.
Thank you, Mr. Sure, of
But
course.
we don't want to hear me talking. Okay, so now the prosecution has finished their opening statement. I hate that I cannot hear this. I'm not sure what's going on. I cannot swap back to my computer speakers for some reason. But anyway, so the opening statements for prosecution is finished. And now it's time for the defense's turn. And I want you to pay attention to the different style and how they do opening statements. And I'm still going to continue to work on trying to get some volume.
Probably a good idea.
Okay, and they're setting up.
Yes, ma'am, you may begin.
She's making sure she has all her things. Some
Good morning.
attorneys will just do like off the cuff, and that's fine. Either way is fine, as long as they get their points across to the jury and they're able to communicate what they need to do. Either way is fine. I don't have a problem with it. I do like when they stand at the podium because I can hear. And sometimes I personally get distracted with the walking back and forth. It just depends. But again, that's a personal thing. With that, I think attorneys should do whatever they feel comfortable, because I'm sure it's nerve-wracking. And, any kind of public speaking is not, well, for some people it's fun, but some others it's not. So do what you feel is comfortable and that you can pull off confidence, even though you might be scared to death or nervous, or just feel the pressure of the trial on you already and it's just the first quarter. Whatever you feel comfortable, so that you can keep your jury engaged. And just main thing is, tell that story like it needs to be told, and be personable.
Hell hath no fury like a woman scorned. Hell hath no fury like a woman scorned. The evidence is going to show that on April 6th of 2021, Dominique Jones, a woman scorned, set a series of events that ended in a tragedy and forced
I'm
Travis
afraid if I
Rudolph
stop this
to act in
video, it is
self-defense.
going to
Her rage and jealousy set this
mess
entire
things
thing
up.
in motion. That's what the evidence is going to show.
all right. I know
You're
it
going
starts
to
with
hear
Heidi, so let
that
me stop, because the
2020
point of this is for me to listen with you, and I can't hear it. So let me remove this. All right, and then let me add it back right quick.
Travis Rudolph was 26 years old at the time.
Hallelujah. Okay, I can hear now. What a pain in the rear end. And on my first professional live, too. But anyways, I'm okay with that. All right. So, like I said, we just saw the prosecution. I can now hear the video, and I like what Heidi has on. And I hope Miss Perlette doesn't mind me calling her Heidi. But anyways, I like what she's got on. She looks relaxed, but yet still professional. I like the hair down. I like black is always classy to me, but then it's like there's that neon green yellow colored blouse she has, and I don't know, I just really like that look. It's attractive. It's I don't know. She doesn't look too uptight, and anyways, I like it.
He lived in
And I'm sorry, I'm going to back this up just a little bit, because again, I want you to see the difference in the storytelling and the importance of telling a good story. And I'm just excited. I can hear it now. Woohoo!
Yes, ma'am, you may begin.
And see how she asked, and again, I love manners. And I think that's why I love court so
Hell
much.
hath no fury like a woman scorned. Hell hath no fury like a woman scorned.
Okay. Another quote at the beginning of opening statements. Love it, because She took it and she has already applied it to this case. I'm intrigued. I want to know, who is this woman that scorned, and how does this pertain to this story that she's going to tell me, as opposed to so and so back in 1900 said blah blah blah. Like, that's, I don't care. But oh, a woman scorned. Okay, that, you got my attention. So you see the difference? So it's super, super important to keep, get your jury's attention and keep it.
The evidence is going to show that on April 6th of 2021, Dominique Jones, a woman scorned, set a series of events that ended in a tragedy and forced Travis Rudolph to act in self-defense. Her rage and jealousy set this entire thing in motion. That's what the evidence is going to show. You're going to hear that in 2021, Travis Rudolph was 26 years old at the time. He lived in Lake Park on 550 Teak Drive with his mother, Linda, and his brother, Daryl, who also goes by DJ Rudolph. You're going to hear that Travis's father was tragically killed several years ago while he was working. He was shot at a restaurant. And because of that, his mother, Linda, felt compelled to have security at the home. They bought a door ring bell camera. They bought a security system called a night owl. She was very fearful for her safety as a result of that incident. Her boys were there. They lived with her. Travis bought some firearms as a result of that for home protection. You're going to hear that he had a concealed weapons permit, that all the guns he owned were legal. There was nothing illegal about his firearms. He kept them in the home, primarily in his bedroom. He went to the range, he practiced, he was trained, he knew how to use these firearms, and never did. But this night he was forced to in order to save the life of himself and his brother. That's what the evidence is going to show. You're going to hear that on April 6th of 2021, well, let me step back for a moment. You've already heard some of this in jury selection, that Travis went to Cardinal Newman High School. He graduated. He went to FSU on a football scholarship. He was a standout receiver, both at Cardinal Newman and at FSU. You're going to hear that, and you've heard a little bit of this already, that he won the lottery when he got a contract with the NFL. He played with the Giants for a bit, and then he played for the Dolphins. His career with NFL was short-lived, unfortunately. When he was playing for Miami, he sustained a serious injury. His ACL was torn, and that basically put the end of his NFL career away. But that wasn't the end of it. He still wanted to play ball. That's his passion. He started training and rehabbing down in Miami. He was doing that for quite some time. During the time that he was in the NFL, he also met a woman by the name of Dominique Jones, the woman scorned, and they had been dating for about a year and a half. When he got injured, however, he and Dominique started falling out, and they decided that they were probably, on the outs, and they were going to break up. Another reason for that breakup was that Travis had gotten a contract with the Canadian League and was set to leave and go play with them the following month in May of 2021. And Dominique Jones knew that, so they were sort of on the outs. On April 6th, the day of this incident, you're going to hear this from Travis Rudolph, who's going to take the stand. You're going to hear this whole story from his mouth. You're going to hear that he was down in Miami training, as he had done every day for many, many months. He was down at the NFL facility training with a friend of his who played on the NFL. He got home late in the afternoon, went home. He and Dominique had been talking, they had been texting, and they decided that they were going to go to a movie that night. That was their big plan. They didn't pick out which movie or what time, but it was sometime probably around 9 o'clock that evening. Travis remained home, waited for Dominique to come over. You're going to hear that she arrived around 7 o'clock or so in the evening. When Dominique arrived there, Linda Rudolph, Travis's mom, was at Bible study at her sister's house. And DJ had just left a little bit before to go to the car wash to get his car detailed. Dominique came into the house, and immediately she told Travis, hey, I want to go to the liquor store to get a Patron bottle, a bottle of tequila. They drove to the liquor store. Dominique bought a bottle of Patron, and you're going to hear that they went back to the Rudolph residence. When they got back to the Rudolph's house, they played a card game called Uno. They did a couple of shots of tequila, and you're going to hear, this was taking place in Travis's bedroom in the home, and you're going to hear that DJ, Daryl, came home around 8:30 or so. When he got home, he asked Travis to step outside for a moment. He wanted him to look at his detailing of his car. He was dissatisfied with something, and he wanted to ask Travis a question. Travis left his cell phone in his bedroom with Dominique, and he stepped outside. When he came back in, that's when all hell broke loose. Dominique went into his phone without his permission. She sneaked around, scrolled through his text messages, and saw that he had been talking with a woman named Kyla and some other women who were merely friends. But it set her off. She became infuriated, enraged. She lost her mind. She became unhinged. Travis came back into the house. Before he could even do anything, she confronted him. And he said, she's just a friend, Kyla. She could not control her anger, her jealousy, her rage. She lost her mind. She picked up Travis's phone. She FaceTimed Kayla, turned the phone around, and said, talk to her. I want to watch your reaction while you talk to this woman. And he did. And they were talking as though nothing was wrong, and she could not control her rage. She took the cell phone, smashed it to the ground, and broke it, screaming, I'm sending my brother over to kill you. I'm sending my brother over to kill you. She then walked over to his dresser, where he had a whole bunch of football trophies and other football things, picked up a metal trophy, hit him over the head with the trophy in her rage. She then picked up his PlayStation, which was in his room, dragged it to the living room, smashed it there as well, in a rage. She was out of control, whole time screaming, I'm sending my brother over to kill you. I'm sending my brother over to kill you. What you're going to hear, though, ironically, is she was married throughout their entire relationship and never told this man this. She was married to a guy named Andre Kishang, or Kishang, I don't know how to pronounce it, but never told him for a year and a half that she was married, sneaking behind her husband's back. You're going to hear that Miss Jones.
Sustained. Go ahead.
You're going to hear that Miss Jones didn't get a divorce until 2 months after his arrest. You're going to hear that Dominique was so upset after she smashed his personal items, she storms out of the house. And you're going to see with your own eyes her demeanor, her behavior, what she did, because it's all captured on the Ring video camera at the house. You're going to see her storm out of the house. You're going to see with your own eyes her attacking and beating up Travis. Travis is like this. He does nothing to retaliate. He does not touch her. He doesn't hit her. He tells her to calm down. But he's mad. He'll tell you that. He's mad. She broke his PlayStation, hit him over the head, broke his phone. So what does he do? He gets into her ear and he starts telling her, Kyla has a better body than you. She's better looking than you.
Okay, so make sure I'm not muted. Okay, so one thing that I like about Heidi's style is when telling a story, and I'm doing it right now, using your hands, that shows you're open to communicating and that you can actually effectively communicate. So for her, kind of react or reenacting, maybe like, hit on the head or thing. She's not being over dramatic, but she's literally telling me a story, and I can't quit watching. I can't quit paying attention. I want to know what happens next. So, excellent storytelling, which I think is a good thing to have when you are doing opening statements. So, let's continue to listen.
And this sets her off even more. She storms out of the house. You're going to see on the video that she trips and falls. She had some recent cosmetic surgery, but she pops right back up. He did not touch her. She claims, and she's going to tell you, and has made prior statements, that he picked her up off her feet and slammed her to the ground 2 times. That's not what you're going to see. You're going to see him backing off, not doing anything as she pounds him and beats him up. He's in her ear saying Kyla has a better body, Kyla's better looking than you, and this just enrages her even more and more. You're going to see on the video that she storms back into the house to get her tequila bottle after she's allegedly slammed to the ground 2 times. She forgot the bottle. So she runs back into the house to get her tequila bottle, goes back out the door, you'll see this on the video, and you're going to see Travis following her, and he's still in her ear talking about Kayla, and this infuriates her even more, that she takes the tequila bottle and hits him over the head with the tequila bottle. At this point, DJ is now coming out, and he's involved, and he's trying to calm the situation down. And you're going to hear from DJ as well. He will tell you this occurred. She picks up a brick by the front house on the lawn near a palm tree, and she starts heading towards Travis's BMW truck, which was the first big purchase he made when he got his NFL contract. This is his most precious thing. He's no longer in the NFL. He doesn't have any more money. This is his pride and joy. And she takes the brick and she's walking towards the truck, to smash the window. But DJ and Travis stop her and they take the brick from her hand. Okay? That car window mysteriously was smashed that evening, but Dominique says she didn't do it. While she's on the front lawn, acting this way, screaming, yelling, calling him a broke bitch, this is even heard by another neighbor, she tells Travis again, repeatedly, I'm going to have my brother come and kill you. And now she says it more, and she's more serious about it. You're going to hear that she had driven her car to the scene, to Travis's house that night, a black Scion, I believe it was, parked it alongside his house. She got into her car. DJ and Travis went back into the house. They didn't know what to make of all of this. It was just unbelievable. You're going to hear that while she sat in her car, she did something that set this entire nightmare into motion. She calls her brother, the one that she said was going to come over and kill him. And she's crying and yelling and upset, tells him what happened. He slammed me to the ground. He disrespected me. I just had cosmetic surgery. Keyshawn's now all riled up. She calls another friend of hers, who Keyshawn sees as a brother, close friend, Tyler Robinson, tells Tyler Robinson, he disrespected me. He slammed me to the ground 2 times. Come get him. She then sends a group text that you will see, to Keyshawn and Tyler Robinson. And she says, go shoot up his shit. Go shoot up his shit. And what does Keyshawn respond back to her and Tyler? He responds that Travis Rudolph is a dead man walking. Dead man walking. That's what he says. You're going to hear that Dominique also, in her rage, calls Tierney Coleman. Tierney Coleman is Travis's sister. And she tells her, he disrespected me. I'm going to go handle him. My brother's going to go handle him. I'm going to come to your mama's house. My brother is going to shoot up his shit. She then calls Linda Rudolph and gets in her ear and starts telling her, I'm going to handle him. I'm going to handle him. He disrespected me, and I'm going to have him shoot Travis. She called everybody. She could not control her rage. At 10:15, you're going to hear Tierney Coleman then called Travis's house, the house phone, to warn him, hey, she just called me. She called Mom. She's unhinged. She's telling everybody that they're coming. They're going to kill you. Travis was concerned, but not completely 100%, because they had gotten into it in the past, and they were on the outs, and he was leaving in May. She had done this, but they were fighting pretty much all the time. 10:45, Linda got home from Bible study, and she looked at the Ring video and saw that Dominique Jones was the aggressor. She saw with her own eyes that her son did nothing wrong, that she was the one that was pounding and beating up on him. So she knew that Dominique was not being truthful, but she was still concerned. You're going to hear that they spoke about it, but things were quiet for a little bit, so they went to bed. Travis went to bed. BJ was up. Linda was still up. Dominique drove to her apartment in Delray Beach. And when she got there, you're going to hear that Keyshawn, her brother, Jones, was present. She was crying. She was upset. She had no injuries, although Keyshawn will tell you she did. But the detective she met with that night didn't note any injuries. She never went to the hospital. But she put on the show, and she cried, and he slammed her to the ground, and he disrespected her. So what does Keyshawn do? Keyshawn grabs his 9mm Glock that he's known to carry. He has a concealed weapons permit. He's a gun enthusiast. He's bought and sold guns. In fact, the gun that Mr. Clossie made reference to that Tyler Robinson had that night was sold to Tyler by Keyshawn Jones one day after he had purchased it. He knew how to handle guns. And at that time, he had a 9mm Glock. He took it, and what did he do? He went to his friend Tyler Robinson's house, who had also received the text messages to go shoot up his shit, and that Travis was a dead man walking. And what you're going to hear is, when he got to Tyler Robinson's house, there were other men that were there too, that Tyler had called and said, come here, we got to do something. We can't let this go. We got to do something about him disrespecting Dominique. And when they got to Tyler's house, Sebastian was already there. Tyler's brother Tyrone was there. Chris Lowe was there. And then Keyshawn shows up. And what did they do? They conspired and planned to go to Travis's house at midnight, several hours after this alleged slamming to the ground, to retaliate and to kill him, just as she ordered him to do. 2 hours later, that's what the evidence is going to show. They weren't there to help a damsel in distress. She was home back in Delray in the apartment. The threat was over. They were there at midnight to act as vigilantes and to retaliate. That's what they went there for, armed. You're going to hear and see that when they went to Travis's house, they took Keyshawn's mother's black Cadillac. You're going to hear that Tyler Robinson was in the front seat. You're going to hear that Chris Lowe and Sebastian were in the back seat. All 4 men were armed. All 4 of them had guns, and you'll see evidence of that. They put Travis's address into the GPS, 550T Drive, despite the fact that Keishan had been there on a prior occasion. They put the GPS in. You're going to hear that they intentionally parked several blocks away. They did not park at Travis's house. They knew where the house was. He shouldn't have been there.
Okay, I'm going to pause just a second. Now, this is the kind of visual aids that I love. I think I've seen it in another trial. I'm not sure. It may just be this one. Whatever the case, it's blown up. It's within a few feet of the jurors. And I don't know, it looks neat as opposed to an old film looking. Let me pull the screen down so you can look at something that we may have to turn the lights off or we may not. But anyways, it's a blown up map of the neighborhood in which this incident occurred.
This is Travis's house. The men parked down here somewhere. And the reason they did that was it was midnight, dark. They knew that Travis had cameras at the house. They didn't want to give Travis an opportunity to prepare himself for the attack. So they parked the car way down here, never expecting a neighbor, Mr. Nash's camera, to capture that. Never expecting that. And what you're going to hear is when they parked the car way down here from Travis's house, despite the fact that there was parking available, they could have parked it on Lee Park, they did it on purpose to come up and do a sneak attack on this man. They didn't want to give him an opportunity to prepare himself and arm himself in case he needed to when 4 armed men came to his door. You're going to see on the video something very interesting. You're going to see that they park the car, they get out of it, all 4 men pile out, they open the trunk of the car, and you're going to see Keyshawn Jones put his cell phone in the trunk. He takes his house keys, puts them in the trunk. Sebastian takes his cell phone, iPhone, expensive iPhones, puts it in the trunk, takes his backpack, puts it in the trunk. They put all their personal items in the trunk because they know they're going there for violence. They don't want their property to get destroyed. That's what the evidence is going to show. What do they do then? They pile back into the car, and then they creep up a little bit closer, another block towards Travis's house, but still almost 2 blocks away. Again, so that he doesn't see them coming, so that they can sneak up at the door, so they can catch him when he's off guard and do what they've been told to do, is to go shoot him. That's all on video. If you're only going to talk to someone, why would you do that? Why would you do that? And Keyshawn Jones is going to tell you that that's all he went there for. He wanted to talk. He wanted to have a peaceful chat with Travis, why he disrespected his sister. But he has no good answer why he needed his 4 brothers to go do that at midnight. Because that was not the intent. The evidence will clearly show he was there to shoot and kill Travis. That's what they were going to do. Ring video.
So she's going to show another blown up of the Ring video. And it makes you want to go, ooh, what is that? What's she about to show us? She's still, even though it's taken longer to talk than the prosecution did, I'm more engaged in her telling than his. So good job for her. And again, and see, she's asking him, can you see it? And maybe some of the jurors said no. So now she's holding it up so that all the jurors can see the blown up
Chris Lowe, one of the men, is
of
going
the
to tell
Ring
you that
video.
whenever Keyshawn gets mad, he puts his hoodie up. front door. Keyshawn Jones, Sebastian, Chris Lowe, Tyler. You can see Tyler Robinson has his shirt on when he first comes up. Sebastian just banged on the door and is now walking away. Sebastian, Chris Lowe looking around. Keyshawn, Tyler. You can see a bulge in Chris Lowe's pocket. A bulge in his right front pocket that is consistent with a gun. You can see Sebastian's right front pocket, a large bulge that is consistent with the firearm. And you already know, from what Mr. Closey told you, that Tyler Robinson had a gun that was found that evening, that he ditched, tossed from the police because he didn't want them to find it. But thank God they did. This is the gun that Tyler Robinson had. 9mm Taurus with an extended clip, hollow point with bullets. That's what was found that night. Tyler Robinson had his shirt on when he got there, as you just saw. But before Travis got out and his brother DJ came out, he ripped his shirt off, readying himself for a fight. They kept all their guns in the pockets because they knew there were cameras there. They couldn't pull them out right there. But when they moved the fight further away, they did. And you'll hear about that. You're going to see on the Ring video, when they got there, Sebastian banged on the door very forcibly. DJ was right there, his bedroom's closest. He came right out, answered the door politely. They'll all tell you that. What do you want? And they demanded to see Travis. We want to see Travis. Get your brother. Now Travis, who was sleeping, hears some commotion at the front door. You're going to hear that he grabbed his gun. He ran to the door. He did not take the gun out. He put the gun by the door and the couch area. He didn't run right out with the gun. He goes to the door. He steps outside. And the minute he stepped outside, you're going to hear that Tyler Robinson sucker punched him on the side of the face. And before he could do anything, all four men were on top of him, immediately attacking him, beating him up. He had no chance. He didn't run back in to get his gun and shoot. They were fighting. It was a big brawl. DJ then gets involved. He's trying to pull all four men off his brother. They start then attacking DJ. He doesn't go back in to get his gun. The brawl continues. You're going to hear that the fight continues down the lawn. They're attacking him, beating him up. Sebastian and Tyler are beating up Travis, 2-on-1, and you're going to hear from Travis that at that point, Tyler Robinson took out his gun, pointed it at him, threatening to kill him, and said, "It's demon time, it's demon time. You disrespected Dominique."
I just have to stop just a second. What the hell is demon time? That is a rhetorical question, but whatever the case, who says that? Okay, that's one thing that just really irked me, demon time. What kind of crap is that? All right, back to the program.
It was only at that point that after Tyler Robinson pulled his gun that you're going to hear that Travis Rudolph got his. It was only after he was faced with the gun. You're going to hear he ran back into the house. You're going to see it on the Ring video. You're going to see he grabs his gun quickly because it was left at the door, never took it out until he was forced to had a gun on him. You're going to see on the Ring video he runs back out with his gun. He trips and falls. He's moving so quickly, gets right back up. When he gets back up, he walks back towards Tyler Robinson, the guy that pointed a gun at him. And Tyler Robinson at this point says, "You got this, you got this." Now he's scared. Tough Tyler Robinson's scared now. "You got this, as though he's surrendering. And he runs away. He starts running down Redwood in the direction that the car is parked. You're going to hear that at that moment, Travis looked down to follow him, to follow where Tyler was running. And what he saw was that his brother DJ was on the street on Redwood being attacked by two men. Sebastian and Chris Lowe, 2-on-1, were beating the hell out of DJ. That happened not near the house.
No, she said men and not boys.
Nowhere near here. It happened down here closer to where the car was parked. DJ was being attacked, beaten by Sebastian and Chris Lowe. Chris Lowe will even tell you. His story corroborates Travis's and DJ's. Chris Lowe will tell you that when he saw Sebastian and DJ fighting on Redwood, nowhere near the house, that he did not want it to be a fair fight. He did not want DJ and Sebastian to have a fair fight. So what did he do? He ran up and sucker punched him and jumped in. He's going to tell you it was 2-on-1, and that's the way he wanted it. And that's what Travis saw when he looked down the street. He saw two men beating up his brother. And he knew one of them that was running in that direction had a gun. So what did he do? He ran down the street to help his brother. He had his gun on him. And when he got down the street, the four men quickly ran away again, and they ran into the car. What you're going to hear is Sebastian was in the front passenger seat, Keyshawn was driving, Chris Lowe was in the back, Tyler Robinson attempted to get in the car but never really got into it. I'll explain why in a moment. And when they piled into the car, you're going to hear that Travis and his brother were roughly 20, 30 feet away. Sebastian pointed his gun through the windshield that had no tint. He could see it as clear as day and was ready to fire. Tyler Robinson was hanging on the doorframe of the back, had his gun pointed at DJ and Travis, ready to shoot. And it was only then that two men were pointing their guns at him. It was either him or them, 20 feet away, that he took his gun and he fired in quick succession, 39 rounds. Yes, that's what happened. He struck Sebastian, and the reason he struck Sebastian was Sebastian wasn't ducking. He was sitting upright pointing a gun. That's why he got hit. Keyshawn will tell you he ducked. That's why he wasn't hit. Chris Lowe is going to tell you he ducked. That's why he wasn't hit. Tyler was hit because Tyler was in the doorframe pointing his gun, ready to kill him, and that's why he was hit. Their stories match. The evidence is consistent with that because that's the truth and that's what happened. He had no choice. It was either them or him and his brother. You're going to hear, as I said, that when Chris Lowe tried to get in the car, he either jumped out, fell out, we don't really know, but he never made it in the car. He ran away. He ran several blocks away. I'm sorry, I wasn't picture that one. You're going to hear that rather than keeping his gun on him, he didn't do anything wrong, right? He ditched it. He didn't want the police to find it, so he tossed it. Thank God for the... Mr. Robinson, excuse me. Mr. Robinson.
Oh, hang on, let me rule on that objection. I want the lawyers up here, please. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, please stand up and stretch. While you're doing so, remember to obey the 4 cardinal rules.
I'm going to go ahead and skip through this little sidebar.
But of course, they walked into this mess. And they spoke about what happened. You're going to hear that DJ was pacing, Linda was shaken, Travis was shaken, everybody was crying, everyone was upset by what happened. They did not call the police, though. You're going to hear that Ms. Coleman and her husband left shortly thereafter. When they were leaving the house, they were stopped by law enforcement officers who were in the area. They were detained. They were taken out of their vehicle at gunpoint, hands up. They were zip-tied. They were thrown in the back of a police vehicle. Eventually, they were released because they realized they had nothing to do with this. You're going to hear that a neighbor across the street, a guy named Ruben Estes, who's lived in this neighborhood for many years, good friends with the Rudolph family, he heard fighting earlier in the evening between Travis and Dominique Jones. He heard Miss Jones calling him a broke bitch over and over and over. Mr. Estes is going to come in and tell you that he also heard the fight and the yelling and the attack later in the evening at midnight. He's going to tell you that it was so scary that he went and got his gun, put a clip in it, because he feared for his own safety, and he was inside his house. That's how bad this was. He'll tell you that at any given moment when he was watching, there were at least 2 men on top of each of the Rudolph boys. They didn't stand a chance. That's going to be his testimony. What you're going to hear is that after Keyshawn Jones left that area on Redwood, he started heading south towards Delray. What you're going to hear is that he drove 5 miles on US 1, which then turns into Broadway in West Palm Beach. The car was shot. You're going to hear that no time during that 5-mile drive did they call 911 while Keyshawn lay beside them, shot, bleeding to death. Not once. You're going to hear that during that 5-mile drive, they had ample opportunity to toss their guns. That stretch of road is dark. There's a lot of abandoned buildings, closed businesses. It's not a well-lit residential area. This is US 1 turning into Broadway. They ditched their guns, either there or where they eventually ended up. When they got to 40th and Broadway, that's the spot that their car basically died. It ended up in a dark, abandoned automotive shop. You're going to hear from an officer, the first officer on scene, Officer Panagua, that he found something to be very suspicious. When he drove by 40th and Broadway, he saw 2 silhouettes. And he found it odd that these 2 people were not flagging him down. He noted that. He rolled up on them, and they never said, "Hey, help, we need help, we have someone shot." They tried to duck him, and he thought that was strange. You're going to hear Keyshawn did call 911, but not until the car stopped. You're going to hear that he passed the hospital that he was allegedly trying to go to, passed 2 large hospital signs, went about 4 or 5 blocks, full city blocks south of where St. Mary's Hospital was, where he was supposedly going to bring his friend. You're going to hear that this investigation involved roughly 50 police officers at the 2 scenes, Teak Redwood and then at 40th and Broadway. Of the 50 police officers, roughly, there were sergeants, detectives, PBSO deputies, West Palm Beach officers, lieutenants, sergeants, a number of detectives. Not one of those people searched the path of travel that Keyshawn Jones drove for 5 miles. Never looked for any tossed guns. You're going to hear that while at 40th and Broadway, Keyshawn and Chris Lowe had roughly 2 hours together to get their story straight before they were interviewed by what would eventually be the lead detective, Vanderlyn. You're going to hear that while on scene at 40th and Broadway, Keyshawn Jones was interviewed first. His interview was 10 minutes long in a homicide investigation. You're going to hear that Detective Vanderlyn was a rookie cop. She had only had 1 or 2 homicide investigations done prior to this incident. She was overwhelmed, didn't care, out of her league.
Objection or argumentative.
Sustained. Sustained.
You're going to hear that this was a shoddy investigation.
Objection, Your Honor, argumentative.
Sustained.
You're going to hear during this 10-minute sworn under oath statement that Keyshawn never told Detective Vanderlyn that Dominique sent him a text messages to go shoot up his shed. You're going to hear that during this 10-minute sworn statement that she took, he never told Detective Vanderlyn that he said that Travis was a dead man walking. He left all of that out. What he did tell Detective Vanderlyn was that he and his friends were going over to Travis's to have a talk, and he painted a portrait that this was just a peaceful discussion. He never mentioned to Detective Vanderlyn that anybody had a gun. He never told her that Tyler had a gun. Never mentioned that. At 2:09, Chris Lowe was interviewed, and that was a 7-minute interview. He never told Detective Vanderlyn that anybody had a gun. And Detective Vanderlyn had an opportunity to take his cell phone that night and never did, and has not to this day, because she believes his cell phone is inconsequential to this case, and anything contained on it, cell phone logs, text messages, anything, has nothing to do with this case. 17-minute investigation. That's what it took, and they arrested him for murder.
Sustained. All right.
Between the 2 interviews, there was a 17-minute investigation between those 2 witnesses. And Travis Rudolph was arrested that night. You're going to hear that Chris Lowe gave a subsequent sworn statement a few months later on July 21st of 21. And in that sworn statement, he said, regarding the attack on Dominique, "We had to address this. We weren't going to let this slide. We don't call the police. That's not how we operate. Right or wrong, we're helping Keyshawn. That's what brothers do. All 4 would back each other up to the end of the earth." And he's the one that said when Keyshawn gets mad, he puts on his hoodie, and he said, "Keyshawn always carries a gun." While on scene at 40th and Broadway, besides all those 50 or so officers and detectives and lieutenants, everybody showing up, you're going to hear that there was a medical examiner investigator that showed up and took a number of photographs, and took several photographs of Sebastian's hand. And he must have considered that important for the number of photographs he took, and as you can see, it appeared that something was held in his hand. Finger pointing like that, there's a grip right here. There was nothing in his hand when the ME got there, and you're going to hear that nobody touched his hand, but it appears that something is or was in his hand at some point. You're going to hear from a defense witness, an expert, Dr. John Maricini, Harvard-educated forensic pathologist, former medical examiner, Palm Beach County, former medical examiner, Dade County, that he has handled many, many cases involving suicides and death where somebody was holding a gun in their hand. And he's going to talk to you about something called a death grip and what that means and why it's his opinion that the position of his hand is consistent with Sebastian having held a gun. After Chris Lowe and Keyshawn were excused by Detective Vanderlyn from the scene at 40th and Broadway, you're going to hear that they made a FaceTime call to Dominique Jones, and told her Sebastian was dead. And they talked. You're also going to hear that that Dominique FaceTimed Keyshawn and Chris Lowe while they were at Tyler's hospital room, which is where they eventually went. And the four of them, Keyshawn, Dominique, Tyler, Chris Lowe, were all FaceTiming in Tyler's hospital room at St. Mary's Hospital before Dominique Jones was interviewed by the police. Detective Emma was sent to St. Mary's Hospital to interview witnesses. 15 minutes, counsel. And when he got there, you're going to hear that Dominique Jones was there, and he interviewed her. He was surprised at how much detail she knew.
So what that was someone, I'm not sure who was telling her, but that she hit the 60-minute mark. What they try to do is they do try to schedule timing things. And so, like I said in the beginning, prosecution told the judge they could get theirs done in 30 minutes and the defense can get theirs done in an hour. So she was just told she hit the 60-minute mark. So now she knows, okay, it's kind of time to wrap things up.
Dominique Jones never told Detective Emma that she ordered Keyshawn to shoot Travis. She never told Detective Emma that Keyshawn was a dead man walking. She never told him that she broke Travis's phone, hit him over the head with a trophy, or broke his PlayStation, hit him over the head with a tequila bottle, that she made threats to Tierney and Linda. She never told him anything. She only painted a picture that he was going there to talk to Travis, that her brother was going there. At 3:51 in the morning, and he doesn't see any bruises or injuries on her either. At 3:51, Detective Ema takes a sworn statement, just like Dominique's, of Tyler Robinson. Tyler Robinson doesn't tell him that he carried a gun. He never told him that he tossed his gun. He never mentioned anything about a gun. The evidence is going to show that Tyler was just grazed and he was released from the hospital the following day on the 8th. On April 8th, he's now interviewed by the lead detective, Detective Vanderlyn. And he is now confronted with the gun because they found it a few hours earlier. Now he can't lie. Now he has to admit it was his gun because they have it right there. He tells Detective Vanderlyn that he's the one that called everybody to his house to gather up. Detective Vanderlyn tells him at that time that there was a camera outside, but doesn't say what it showed. And that's important because when Tyler came to the state attorney's office for a sworn statement a couple of months later on June.
Sure. Feel free once again to stand up and stretch, ladies and gentlemen, remembering
Okay.
and obeying the four cardinal rules.
Another sidebar, and I'm going to fast forward it.
I apologize. On the 16th, he comes to the state attorney's office, and he spoke to attorneys, myself, the prosecutors were present, a court reporter, for about 2 hours. And he admitted that he owned the 9mm Taurus, that Keyshawn Jones had sold it to him. He also did not have a concealed weapons permit at the time, so he was carrying a concealed weapon, which is a felony, yet to this day he's never been charged or prosecuted for that crime, which is a serious offense and carries a prison sentence. He told us in deposition that he spoke with Keyshawn and Dominique by FaceTime while at the hospital and told him about Sebastian and that they spoke about it. Chris Lowe came to the hospital room to see him before he was interviewed or spoke to the police and said that Dominique FaceTimed Chris and Keyshawn while he was in the hospital room and that all four had talked before he was interviewed by the police. He said something that's really important during that deposition. He said that Sebastian adamantly told him to bring his gun that night. Sebastian told him to bring his gun that night. And everybody knew it, and everybody there at Tyler's house heard it. That's important because none of the other boys told the police that there was a gun or that Tyler had a gun. They all lied. After that line of questioning, Tyler, remember, now he knows that there was a video at the house because Detective Vanderlyn told him that 2 months prior. He remembers nothing about what happened at the door because he now knows there was a camera there. But after questions about what happened after the attack at the door, he now has a memory again. He said Travis came out shooting, heard his mom telling Travis to stop. He said Travis was having trouble with the gun and he couldn't pull the slide back. And Travis was shooting at him while he was running away, and he admitted to tossing the gun. A couple of months later, he was subpoenaed again to give another sworn statement. And what you're going to hear in that statement, he was questioned by Mr. Shiner and prosecutors, and he said he doesn't remember receiving a call or text from Dominique, doesn't know who shot him, doesn't remember giving a taped statement to the police, doesn't remember Keyshawn, Chris, and Sebastian coming to his house to meet. He testified under oath, subject to perjury, that he doesn't remember anything from that night. He doesn't remember taking his gun to Travis Rudolph's house, doesn't remember the fight, doesn't remember who drove the car, doesn't remember coming to the state attorney's office to give a 2-hour deposition. He admitted that he's not on any medication and doesn't know why he couldn't remember anything. He can't remember if he went to Travis's house or not and doesn't remember throwing the gun away. That was his sworn testimony. You're going to also hear that Dominique Jones refused to give police her cell phone, eventually did, 10 or so days later. She did a consent, but by then she had deleted evidence, incriminating evidence. She deleted the text messages to go shoot up his shit. She deleted the text messages that her brother sent that Travis is a dead man walking. She deleted this evidence because it was incriminating and she didn't want the police to have it or this jury to see it. But remember, Keyshawn's phone was in the back of that caddy, and that caddy was now in police custody. He could not get his cell phone. It was in police custody. And they found those text messages on his phone. And they found those text messages eventually on Tyler Robinson's phone. And that's how we have them. You're going to hear that when she finally did turn her phone over to the police 10 or so days later, she didn't turn it in to Detective Angelin herself. She sent her friend, Paloma Feliciano. She didn't want to be interviewed by police, so she sent her friend there. Very telling. Remember, Dominique was interviewed about 2:45 in the morning on the 7th. At 10 or so that morning, a few hours later, you're going to hear that Dominique was doing some searches, and she forgot to delete it when she turned her phone over to Detective Vanderlyn. And that search history was as follows. Stand your ground law in Florida. Self-defense in Florida. Self-defense. Stand your ground law. Florida stand your ground law. Prosecuting attorney Mark Shiner, net worth. Pro bono, which means free, lawyer. JetBlue customer service, pro bono, which means free. Those are the witnesses you're going to hear from. That's what you're going to be asked to rely upon, and that's what you're going to be asked to base your verdict on. You're also going to hear that there were many, many things that Detective Vanderlyn failed to do. As I just said, she didn't get Dominique's phone until the 16th, given her ample time to destroy evidence, which is exactly what she did. She never forensically examined Sebastian's phone. Chris Flo's phone to this day has never been seized. She said it was inconsequential. She never had anybody search the path of the Cadillac, never did a search for guns. Sebastian's, Keyshawn's, Chris's. She never asked the 50 officers to do any search, although she had all of them at her disposal. She never bothered to speak to Tierney Coleman. She never bothered to speak to Linda Rudolph. She never got a search warrant.
Sure.
Oh my gosh.
Once again,
Another sidebar.
Feel free to stand up.
And I'm going to fast forward, which we should be getting close to the end.
Interview.
She never asked Keyshawn why he said that Travis was a dead man walking. She never followed up with Keyshawn. after finding that out. She never followed up with Dominique about her text to this day. She's had DJ's phone in evidence since April 6th of 2021, and to this day has never forensically examined it. You're going to hear that between the hours of 10:16 p.m. and 1:31 in the morning on April 6th into April 7th, that Tyler Robinson made 29 outgoing calls, texts, and FaceTime calls to Dominique, Keyshawn, Sebastian, Chris Lowe, and some others. Tyler Robinson received 24 incoming calls, texts, FaceTime calls between the hours of 10:16 p.m. and 1:31 p.m. from Dominique, Keyshawn, Chris, and others. These other people included someone by the name of Hack, H-A-C-K, who Tyler Robinson FaceTimed at 11:39 a.m., 20 minutes before the shooting and before the men arrived at Travis's house. And the text from Tyler to Hack says, Travis's address is 550 Teak Drive. We don't know why Hack was going to the house to meet these four armed men or what role he played, or why Hack was needed at the Rudolph residence to talk for the purpose of talking to Mr. Rudolph. Keyshawn and his armed brothers were not noblemen. They weren't chivalrous. They didn't witness an attack on an innocent woman. They were vigilantes. They were four men who went there to retaliate and kill, just as they were ordered to do. We don't want to plunge you in the darkness. We want the lights on. We want the fag unfolded. That's what we want, and that's what you're going to hear from the defense. Travis Rudolph acted in self-defense, and that is the truth. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Perlette.
Okay, good job. Okay, so I thought she did a phenomenal job. And if you're still with me, thank you, because I know that was long, but I wouldn't have shown it all if I didn't think it was important. It was great examples of opening statements where attorneys are keeping the jurors engaged. And like I said, it's so important because this is like, you know how they say first impressions, right? So this is the jury's first impressions on the prosecution and defense. And so I just cannot say how important that is. And you've got to, be able to tell a story. And like I said, even though her story was longer than the prosecution, I didn't know where all he was going. And even though she, like I said, it was long, but she was detailed, I was able to follow the story. She backed up some of her point, like the points she really wanted to talk about. She had those visual aids to go with that, which I thought was phenomenal and easy for the jurors to see. And so, of course, I enjoyed and I thought her opening statement was better. So even later, if you're doing a rewatch, let me know in the comments what you thought about the opening statements, or if you have any questions. Feel free to, post in the comments and let me know, and let me know what you think attorneys, should do for opening statements. Like, do you want to see more visual aids? Do you not want to see visual aids? Tell me what do you expect? But anyways, so I appreciate all of you that were able to make it to my live stream today, because like I said, this was kind of like my professional, real one. I say professional, it's not really professional, but you know what I mean. Also, big hugs to the rewatch crew when you arrive and decide you're going to watch it. But unfortunately, it's time to wrap things up. So I've got an idea. How about we do this again this Thursday, 1 p.m. Central Standard Time. We're still going to stick with the Travis Rudolph case because I want to go through the whole trial so that you can see what a phenomenal example this trial is. And it's easy to understand, and it's just wow, it just blows my mind. But anyways, so yeah. So Thursday, 1 p.m. Central Standard Time, we're going to go to part 2 of my series, and we are going to be watching the first round of the prosecution's witnesses. We won't get to all of them. It's just going to be a few of them. And we're also going to have a discussion about how to behave in the courtroom. But anyways, I can promise you one thing, it is going to be a doozy. So be there or be square. So also, if you enjoyed this video or you learned something new, give it a like. Also, please subscribe to my channel and hit the little notification bell so you don't miss out on any new content that I upload. And again, I enjoy covering video or making videos covering true crime and missing persons in our justice system. And my thing is, I take turns, I guess you would say. So like right now we're going to focus on justice system, and we're doing that with the Travis Rudolph case. So until next time, stay safe, be aware of your surroundings, and please do the right thing.